Good morning, everyone. We are going to get Alice on here so we can get started. Okay, so this is round 3 of our Wednesday Wisdom for swim teachers, swim school managers, and aquatics programs in general. The first week, we talked about the Learn to Swim journey. The second week, just last week, we talked about the emotional life cycle a child goes through. And I know a lot of you who watched that found that helpful. And then today, we're going to talk about something that maybe a lot of you have experienced, emotional or crying children and how you handle them in your program. I have a lot of experience with this that I'll share a few stories about. My sister Alice has tons of experience as well dealing with this in a very large program down to the private at-home type of setting. So once she gets on, we will dive right in. And if you're joining us for the first time, Swim Foundations, that's who we are, strives to be a comprehensive resource for swim teachers, swim school managers, and aquatics programs. Okay, here's Alice. Let's get her on. Here she comes. And always, in the meantime, if you're watching, you can always add comments. We'd love to hear from you. And if there's any specific topics you want us to talk about or touch on, please let us know. We have a very long list, but we're always happy to hear from people. Okay, good morning, Merry Christmas.
Good morning. Christmas tree background today.
Yep. Oh, you can't see my Nemo back there, but usually you can see the Nemo in the background. So I already did the quick intro, and I recapped what we covered the last couple of weeks and introduced what we're going to cover this week, which is how do you manage crying / emotional children in your program? Whether it's you as a private instructor teaching at home in a backyard, or running a giant program like you do there in Texas where you're dealing with hundreds of people a week or possibly into the thousands. So let's kick it off. Tell us about, we kind of covered a few points last night when we were prepping, but why don't you start with, in the program you're in today, so let's say you're a large swim school manager. How do you manage crying children with your teachers, with your parents? How does it all work? Because it happens.
Right. Yeah. I mean, let's take the first day lesson where a student is coming in with a family. A lot of swim schools now have deck coaches on deck. So the swimmer arrives, they check in, and then go to teacher, go to the water. Well, if that child,
swim lessons manager who's supervising, right? Not in the water, but supervising the deck.
Correct. Yeah. I can be anywhere. I can be in the water or on the deck, but a lot of times I'm on the deck. So if we take the first example of a parent coming in with a child, holding latched on, emotional already, loud, crying. There's a time when you need to say, okay, with the parent's consent, go to the teacher. And they take the child to the teacher. But first and foremost, I don't like to put a child into the water, kicking and screaming and all that. Some kids will try that at the first lesson. It's not so much about the water. Maybe it's a little bit of anxiety and fear about the swim lesson and their expectations. But most of the time with youngins, it's a separation anxiety, and they're new to the environment. They don't know how long they're going to be there. All those kind of things can compile, and then you've got a screaming, crying child who doesn't want to let go of mom and dad. So some parents will want to say, oh, say no. Hold on a second. Let's sit down. And I ask the parents to actually sit down, put them on their lap so that they're looking outward at what's going on. The parent has to start breaking up the emotion with some truth. So realistically, the parent, deck coach, and the in-water instructor, they really have to calm the child down with absolute truth. No games, no, oh, now. Some real straight words have to be heard for them to realize I'm completely overreacting. So to answer the question, I find this for parents, they need to sit down, put the child on their lap or hold them close so that both of them are looking outward. And I ask the parents to give them truths. Tell them what you see, what's going on. Do you see the teachers holding the children and helping them? No one's crying in the swim lesson. Do you see that these kids are kicking and smiling? Do you see, I brought you here. I paid money and brought you here. Absolute basic truths from the parent, and then I back that up, and my swim teachers back that up, where if a kid starts, getting funny ideas and they start getting out of control, you have to start with at least speaking to them and giving them the reality and the truth. You can't stay here for very long. You have to go back in your towel and in your car. For little kids, that really helps them. They're like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
my towel, my car.
You say, you can't stay here. You can't stay here. You have to go home. And it's like, oh, wow.
You have to go home.
Get that. It kind of clicks in their head.
You're kind of destroying their excuse. But that's just one avenue that you can take to communicate with a parent. Then what do you do? Maybe if it's second or third lesson when those emotions can spike.
Right, when they're already in the water. Yeah.
Getting the parent out of sight, out of mind is one thing that I know we've used even at home pools. If a kid is at that, if they're really just overreacting and they're doing it, maybe they're repeating, mama, 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 they're doing that kind of stuff. Mom, go around the corner where you can hear what we're doing. But sometimes they'll settle down if mom or dad are not in their visual. So we use that. And then this is really important though. This is what I tell parents. Whether it's the first lesson, second or third, or one of those lessons where the child is crying and we've done some communication, the parent has told them, you're gonna do your lesson today. We have consent to put the child in the water with the teacher. Teachers love these guys. But I always let the parent know that if they escalate, if things get too loud or too emotional, then I go get the parent and they come back inside where the child continues the lesson, but on the parent's lap. So that we're not kicking them out. And this is really key. We're not kicking them out. We're still, they are still a part of the lesson, only they're on the deck with the parent and watching what the teacher's doing and getting explanations from the parent or the deck instructor.
Right? So the
very
parent
close.
Is not feet in the water or anything. They're out of the water.
No.
They're nearby so that the child can hear everything, see everything.
Yeah, and if they were loud, then I'm not putting them right by the class. We have like an arrival side of our pool, and then we have a departure side. It's just how the flow of the classes work, to do half an hour back-to-back classes. So sometimes I'll have them sit on the opposite side or a different corner, but at least we're not just saying, oh, you're crying today, you're out of the lesson. There are things to be learned. They need to hear the truth about what's going on. Kids are really smart nowadays about, they know that we buy things, they know about money. Even little kids, when I say, your mommy's in charge of you. Your mommy would never bring you anywhere that's not safe and good for you. She would never bring you somewhere where you don't belong. So again, those kind of truths will work or not, but at least they're hearing it. And if they hear it from both the parent and the instructor, now we're getting somewhere where we're destroying their excuses. They're trying to get out of this, but if the parent and the instructors stand by each other and say, I'm sorry that you're crying today. It's okay that you're going to help you. Do you want a hug? Like I used to be a little more like, stop that, no. There's a time and place when you have to tell them, stop, no, don't. But anymore, I kill them with kindness. Do you want a hug? It's okay. I'm going to help you and take care of you today. And it's only for a little while. So truths help. Right. And if we go, this has been more of a parental side of this coin with little ones, maybe our 2-year-olds, 2 to 3-year-olds. First lesson, they're really uncomfortable. They're not having it. it's best to break up the lesson. We've done this for years because mom's done this.
Right.
At home pools is they go in the water, they take a little ride, they spend a few minutes of listening, a few minutes with the instructor, and then they go back to the mom and get in the towel.
They get to take a rest, they get to maybe warm up, they get to check in with their parent, and then parent
they go
hands
back
them over and says, you're going back in.
And we do a little more. You know, whatever the parameter is, it's important for the instructor to create that parameter because they're in charge. We're supposed to be in charge. So that's a really good exercise for the child to realize that when I do go in the water with this teacher, I always go back to my mom. And I go back in the water, but I always go back to my mom. So even if you think you're not, you know, audibly getting to them, they're hearing it, but sometimes, you know, it seems like they're not having it, or maybe they're not if they're irate. So that physical exercise of doing some in the water and going back to parent. So
and
those.
Let's talk a little bit. So parents are huge in this, right? We know that if the parent or whomever is bringing them, I've mentioned grandparents before and how they can be really heart tugged by the little ones.
They can get really scared.
So they can even ask, you know what, I think it's time to get out for her. They'll think they can kind of control the lesson. We can get into that another day. So having the parents on board with the teacher and the deck manager, if you have that, or if you're doing an at-home lesson, making sure the parent is on board with what's happening. And we can give lots more examples about that. But I want to talk quickly about distraction and using distraction as a method in the water. So maybe you're challenging the child and they're not usually a crier, but man, you've asked them to do something that, they really don't want to do. Or maybe that day they had to be woken up from a nap to come to lessons, which often happens. Or a lot of times kids are being picked up from daycare and going right to swim lessons, or picked up from school and right to swim lessons. And it's been a long day.
And they want to see their mom or dad.
They want to see their parent. They haven't had that close time with them. So they can be, you know, they can have a hard lesson. But can you talk a little bit about some of the tactics you use around distraction, kind distraction in the water when you run into that emotion?
For sure. Okay, so there's a lot of different concepts and topics that you can use. I'm going to talk about some that I use, but I think this is really, really spectacular. If you know what you're doing in swim lessons, you don't have to make them perform at the start of the lesson. If they're fussy, they need time.
Yes, for sure.
The instructor needs to establish that I'm not just going to run you through the mill here. I'm not just going to make you work like crazy and make you more upset. If you see a kid that is upset or they're having a hard day, they're tired, cranky, whatever it is, you can start some of their work, but really assist and support them and glide them through the water. And water is one of the most soothing things that we have on this planet. So you can use that fussy time to soothe them and to take them through the water on several different methods, whether it's kickboard, noodle, your own hands, not pressing their buttons and pushing them to the limit at first. Because I find
and using that really that connection time to build trust.
Yes.
Because it does. When you're soothing and giving them that compassion.
And when they realize that you understand that they're not having their best day, they really are like, thank you. You understand what's going on. Then they're putting in your hands. Now they're ready to relax and they're ready to listen. They're ready to try. Just a huge trust bridge. They go, okay, you can see that I'm not really into doing this today, and you're trying to help me. They can feel it. Now, as far as
me where I am.
Yeah, I mean, here example of the type of lessons that Nitro provides. It's curriculum based, where like Swim America, you pass a skill and then you move on. Well, something that I'm always trying to teach my instructors is, yeah, we want to see if they can do it. We don't want to waste the entire lesson because maybe they can get the skill done or another one. You never know.
Right.
To move up the ladder. But realistically, little kids, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, they need to spend time with you, a good 15 minutes of working together and enjoying each other and enjoying their lesson, because you should be holding them properly. You should know how to check for their air, get good air, all those kind of things that create comfortability. That by the middle of the lesson and towards the end, now you're doing what I want you to do because we just prepped. Okay, so something I tell my instructors is you need to provide proper support, provide good practice, and repeat that, and then test it out. For example, holding the arms up for a little kid at station 3 and diving in to kick 5 yards. Okay, they have to hold their arms on their head and kick out. Well, they don't know how to kick properly or only come to lessons once a week. You've got to do some work before they'll actually just push off with their head down, keep their arms on their head and kick, right? You might not get that till the end of the lesson because you worked on it. You allowed them to experience what it should feel like, and that's because you're supporting them. Now, let's go back to what the tactic is for distractions to get them to that point.
Yes.
I really start talking to them like they're, like they're my friend or they're like a neighbor or like a grown-up a little bit. Like, man,
like they're little
that was
people.
super good. Yeah. If the more you connect to them and you talk to them about, I made green beans last night and I don't like green beans, but I had mashed potatoes and my potatoes were really good. I mean, I'll take a topic and just go with it.
Something that they
swimming like an animal.
Food, eating.
Yeah, no, seriously. Colors, I have a pink blanket and it's so warm and they're like, I have a blue blanket. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter what, it's just, it needs to be on their level and it needs to be it needs to be real. But here's something that I like to do and that I teach instructors on how to deal with a fussy kid and 2 willing kids. Okay, you get these kids to a platform. One's crying, they're fussing, they're not into it. The other 2 are ready, willing, and waiting. The instruction is teach a group class. Talk to the others. Okay, jog like you're at the park. Okay, jump up and down. Get your breath. Show me your bubbles. Good job, Susie. Good job, Sally. Come on, Sammy. You don't put all of your energy on the fussy one.
Very important.
You put your energy on the ready and the willing, and you provide a group activity, both visually and verbally, where you're kind of doing it along with them. Pretty soon, they want to be a part of it. They're like, oh, I don't want to fuss. I want to do it. They're having fun. That's a tactic.
Yes. And I'm going to say right now, I think next week our topic's going to be around the benefits of the group lesson and why a group lesson over a private lesson. And there might be a time for private lessons and that one-on-one time, but there's so many benefits to the group lesson, and we'll cover that next week. We'll dive into it.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Okay, let's do, how about you give us one more tactic that you use? I use the same thing, just talking, singing, humming, depending on the age of the child will determine what kinds of distractions I use, like you said, colors, numbers, looking at the sky for littler
conversation
ones, but talking about food and dinner for a little bit older ones. So you have to gauge who you're dealing with essentially. But give us one more tactic example.
Yeah, I will. And I would say on that conversation, you're sharing something personal with them. So it really doesn't matter what it is. You're sharing something personal with them. I'm a mommy. I have Stefan, I have Ruby, I have Victor. They're like, you're a mommy? Oh, okay.
Right. Yeah, my baby's in childcare while I'm teaching you to swim.
Yay.
That's me.
Speaking personally, telling something yourself helps them realize you're not just a wicked swim teacher. Okay, so I love to give them, I'm a big fan of platform to platform or, in and out of the step. Platform to platform is really cool because you can have these small areas of water for a child that's, learning to get comfortable in their independence and take them back and forth from platform to platform. And, it's who wants to swim like a bear? You can swim like a bear, a tiger, or a shark. Who? And they're like, tiger. Okay. We can swim. Who wants to swim this time like a frog or a octopus or a, clownfish? I get specific and I get real involved in our timing so that I just suck them in. And then they're like, oh, I'm totally swimming like a bear this time. I'm like, show me your claws, paws out, you know, all that kind of stuff.
And they're looking forward to the next one. What is she going to let us be next time?
Yes. So all that kind of stuff, I think what it boils down to is that you're making them feel important. You're making them realize that what they're doing is important, but in a positive, upbeat manner. Not, now do you know how many children drowned every year? Right. This is very important. Not that kind of BS. Making them feel important. Like, now look, this time when you push off, you've got to kick super fast, okay? And when you pump them up, they're like, this is radical. I am so doing this. And that's the essence of the distraction. It's not BS. It's not, oh, look at the birdie. Oh, look at this. I mean, sometimes, let's agree, sometimes you have to say, hey, look at that over there for any kind of distraction. But the more personal you get and the more you can focus on children in the group lesson that are ready, willing, and able, they're going to want to join the fun. And it just kind of dampers the whole attention thing down. But if it's a private lesson, you know, you have to pull any tricks out you can for those distractions. What would you say with a private lesson for distractions?
That's hard. Well, let's save that for next week.
Okay.
We'll talk about private versus group next week, and we can bring in the distractions topic as well. So that's it for today. We went through actually a lot about aligning parents, teachers, and student in the water to get through those crying moments or those emotional outbursts, or even to get them into the water for that first day. And then we gave some specific examples of tactics to use when you're in the water with the child and they, you know, start to get upset. So next week we'll talk about the benefits of the group lesson versus a private lesson and how you might use some distraction tactics when you are in that one-on-one private lesson. So we'll see everybody next week. And thank you, Alice. We'll do next week. It's not Christmas yet, so we'll be live.
Next week,
so
I'm on a cruise. I may be in the Grand Caymans next week.
You might feel like calling in. Maybe they'll have great internet.
There's some pretty rough charges on the ships, but I'll check it out because if I can, I will.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. See you, everybody.
You're welcome.
See you later. Bye.
Bye-bye.